feel like I should be prepared for something now. Or like, oh yeah, now, but now. And like, oh, I don't know what exactly is going to come, but I like put your seatbelt on, please. Okay.
Here we go. Get ready for a roller coaster.
That reminds me of one of the few times I was in Amsterdam in a coffee shop. Like one of the
Mhm.
few times I was in Amsterdam and I was in a coffee shop and I was like, oh, I want to put the seatbelt on. Like, where is it?
Yeah. Ah, well, we've had quite a I've had quite a day kind of setting up this call with you. It's been yeah, one of those eventful, chaotic, surprising days. Yeah. And I invited you into this call because I wanted to explore yeah, your experience being on the online SAS and wanting to share that with people who are curious about it or yeah, want to learn what the journey can be. And yeah, so I don't know how we will do that, but I just want to say big welcome. Thanks for your adaptability today. And what comes up just right away as we kind of sink into this context.
Mm, feels good to hear the words sink in. It's like like the seatbelt that keeps me closer to earth.
Yeah, just being with you here, I actually get a few memories of the 6 months. And one, like, the experience I had with you was like now, like an increasing sense of you in the group of just commitment to being present and being more and more kind of unapologetically present. Hmm. Yeah, how does that sound when you hear it?
Mm. It's like the word unapologetically echoing. Mm. Notice that I have never used this word, at least not in English. And there is something radical in it, and also something soft and clear. Um, and I feel somehow seen in that when these words find myself.
Yeah, and hearing you now, I actually also I start to actually get curious of like, oh, Stephanie, like, where did you come from actually? And it's like, because we've been so much in presence and exploring, it's like, oh yeah, how did you actually even hear about the course, or like what drew you to it originally?
Mm. There are two things that come up. And like when you said, like, who are you? Like, I remember the one coaching call within the SAS I had with John. And he was like, yeah, feels like we're getting into the transpersonal very quickly, but who are you? And I remember spending this hour, like, more or less telling my life. And hmm,
Was it like sharing your story, or I ask that because often people kind of assume in the practice of transformational connection of like that we're really exploring our present moment awareness, and I imagine people can really feel that in you right now, like that willingness to discover like what's really here, and that actually that would mean we wouldn't share like something of our story. But actually I think that's a kind of, it's like a partial truth that we want to explore what's immediate and alive, but sometimes what seems most alive is someone just sharing something about their life. It's like that's their story about their life. It's not, and sometimes that can be an avoidance or some way of like disconnecting a little, but sometimes that's like the most enthralling thing you can experience of someone.
yeah, I remember how vulnerable it felt to share
Mm.
about my story, my more about the form somehow, more about something that is me, that is connected to the present moment, but also not. And yeah, I noticed when you asked me how I found the SAS, there's some vulnerability or some and still also this longing to share about who I am or where I come from.
Yeah, well, just being with you, like my memory is good at forgetting things, so we might have like shared stuff before, but right now I don't remember hearing or knowing anything about where you come from or who you are. I think that's an amazing part of the practice, that when you're in the depth of presence, in a way, the form can fall away, but at the same time, like right now, it feels very alive to anticipate what you might share.
Yeah, one thing, I think my memory matches your memory that I didn't share anything. Mm. The first time I was in a circling session was in Berlin, with Manisha. I don't know if you know her. Mm.
I think so.
Yeah. And I was there in her living room and I didn't know her before. And I had seen this message on Telegram in a group. And something about was pulling me. Yeah. And I don't remember so much, but I remember I tasted something that I wanted to taste more of. Mm. And that, in a sense, felt familiar, but also new. Mm. Yeah, and I assume we spent 2 hours circling, and I left with something like a spark,
Mm.
and I don't know very much what happened in the meantime between this moment and signing up to the SAS. But I remember I checked your website and I didn't know any of your faces. And I read that there would be a like a discovery call recommended before doing it.
Yeah.
So I remember how I looked at I think there were the four faces, like you and John and Ellen and Else. I stayed with Else's face and was like, okay,
Yeah.
I feel so much trust. And, and
Yeah,
I
that's not a
choose,
surprise. Yeah.
yeah, and I choose her. And I remembering entering into the call with a lot of fear that I might not be accepted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm. Well, it can happen, but it's it's but it's not so much. It's more like if someone feels prepared, because it is quite a commitment and it can have a lot of impact on the group if someone's not quite ready, yeah, for that kind of depth of practice. But I imagine with you, it wasn't, yeah, going to be a problem.
I think I was enough prepared. I remember how I still had my old computer and how the connection was really bad.
Mm.
And how I felt embarrassed about it and how I shared it with her.
Yeah, those calls we do, just for those that don't know about that, it's like half an hour just to meet one of the leaders to kind of check in, explore, answer any questions. What I'm finding these days in those calls is just, it's almost one of my favorite kind of like practices because I just meet this person I've never met before usually. Maybe I know them a little bit and we just tend to like explore, go straight into presence and it's amazing to meet these people who are drawn to this kind of thing. And your story almost it kind of reminds me of that. You like meet some woman who, is it Manisha, and you're in her apartment doing the practice, and Like, I don't know, there's something about it that's uh there's often like interesting beginnings. Like I remember my beginning, I heard about it on a podcast and then I kind of took away some kind of idea of how to do it. And then this French girl who was on my university just was up for trying it. And then we were just like not knowing what we were doing, but just kind of just sharing authentically. And it was so impactful. I was like, I don't know what this is, but I need to take another step into this. It sounded like that was similar for you.
Mm. Right now, I noticed there is this curiosity when you mention, oh, there are these people and you just meet them, and like a part of me was wondering how much of these people you meeting a second time, and if it's always clear, or how much just meeting the person in that call and then probably never again. How
Well, usually someone like if they were doing the online course and I'm leading it, or if say it's in Amsterdam or something, then they'll likely have my contact or one of the other leaders. So we usually do, yeah, we have this call and then and then we'll meet again. But I do the call without audio, so I don't know what they look like sometimes. So we share this, and it can be quite a journey in half an hour, and it can be simple as well. People just asking questions, and then yeah, we come back into the course, and sometimes I don't know exactly the face to the name, and then it can be like we'll be in a circle and it'll suddenly be like, oh yeah, I remember that call we had. Oh yeah, and it's unfolding now, like what we were talking about. But it feels like the SAS in a way begins there often and on this half an hour. But it's so impactful to hear like this story you shared, like what brings people to have that call and to get to share that with them and connect in it. Yeah, I really enjoy that. And yeah, something very kind of refreshing, yeah, to meet people who are kind of drawn. I almost get the metaphor. Have you ever seen the X-Men, that movie? You got those mutants who've got these superpowers. It's like in this world where they can like read minds or they can like move really fast or they've got like telepathic powers and but they're in a world where no one accepts mutants. Like they don't like them. They have to suppress these powers, and they often feel kind of guilty about having these powers, or it's like not fully recognized and even questioning whether they have them or not. But then these X-Men, it's like this academy where they get recognized and like, no, no, that's not a bad part of you. Like, and in fact, we're actually going to help you like develop that telepathy. And you're amongst others who also feel kind of weird, but super curious about these like transpersonal realities. And there's an irony as well of like the X-Men who are kind of, they're suppressed and they're like discriminated against for being mutants. That's what they're called. But when they learn to use their powers, they use those powers to protect those that don't like them. So it's like this kind of, but I see something very beautiful about that if we're going to get drawn to this practice of being present and going into subtle realities that are kind of unconventional sometimes, but learning those to be, yeah, even better at connecting with anyone, not just in the practice. like to be of more service wherever you go. Do you feel a bit like an ex-woman, a mutant?
I definitely feel some amusement when I hear like this academy where um now I almost forgot what you said afterwards, where oh no, where you get recognized in your superpowers and um yeah, this academy where you get recognized in your superpowers and
Yeah, sorry, my computer. Yeah, well, well, and it's even edgy for me to talk about because I don't want to make it sound so. I mean, these are obviously movies where people can like lift up cars and like they've got really physical superpowers. But I do think it's representative because like when you become present with someone, like being with you now, as I start to feel my belly, I can notice the subtle tensions there. I start to feel my spine. It's like you start to experience things in connection that are a bit like being on drugs or being in a deep meditation. And you can do things and see things and experience feelings that you don't normally have access to so easily. So it does feel a bit like a new capacity, maybe is a more grounded way of saying it than a superpower or like a
Hmm.
transpersonal capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed there are like several threads that I feel like going into. Um, and yeah, recently I find myself very curious about family constellations and what happens in this field. And even if it's only two people and a field that is opened, and how these invisible fields become so real in these contexts. And yeah, that I start exploring or wondering when are the fields opened up, or how are they opened up, and like like the two of us in this field. And I feel it started, you sent me this message and with this bringing something, and I responded. And also today when you sent me this message of, oh, there's childcare, and for me it felt like a bit, oh, the field is nourished by something very earthy and very like, here, yeah, there's childcare to be done, like, oh, and like observing, oh, another component entering the field, and like, oh, yeah, this mix of feeding the field and surrendering to the field.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, the one way I would understand the field, I mean, because you could say it's like the kind of a presence we go into, and it's like the air's thicker and sensations are very easy to feel all around my body. But it's also, I think what we do in the practice is normally connection is kind of completely invisible. Like it's not a thing. It's like, if you're in a room full of people, there's nothing you can see or hear or taste with your senses that you could say that is the connection. Like, yeah, we're in the same room, so like there's two people, but there's nothing you can touch that's like, oh yeah, that's the connection between you. But when you become like you put your attention on that kind of invisible sense of connection, it's like, what is it like for me to be with you right now? What's it like that we're in connection? It's like it comes alive. I think that's what you're calling the field. It's like the relationship or the connection actually has an inside or a, like you can access the actual experience of it. And once you do, it's actually full of aliveness. It's full of complexity. There's so much to discover there.
Mm.
And it seems what you're like now your practice has matured. You're almost like, oh, I can sense when the field likes what's happening or it's enriched by the realness of you having to deal with childcare. Like there's something that I feel an enriching of the connection in that, or at least the field of connection.
Yeah, like it is always there, but this awareness to the feel, like, oh, it's there, and oh, it looks like that, and oh, these parts are dancing together now, and oh, like the universe. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's this Kabbalistic saying that in in the invisible lines of connection live ecstasy and magic. And it's like, oh yeah, if we become conscious of the invisible experience of connection, it's like inside that, because it's nothing in a way, and it's everything, and you can start to feel ecstatic and see magic. And I wonder if that connects to the thing you were saying about family constellations, or was that part of like this, the information that's possible to discover inside?
Yeah, like what is coming up right now is this, that I'm getting in touch with this huge desire to point at these things that are kind of invisible, and also like an awareness of, oh, what if the person doesn't see it? It's um like in family constellations, like there too, it becomes, I feel, very visible. But of course there are also people attracted to this field who commit themselves
Mm.
to to wanting to see something. Yeah, and also this, yeah, there is a sadness coming up if I'm like pointing at something and the person doesn't see it, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that can be a big, yeah, a big, I don't know, part of the roller coaster in a way that if you start to wake up to these subtle realities within connection, but then you're with someone who isn't interested or is judgmental of that in some way or is triggered by it in some way, that can be quite a challenging navigation. I think it's part of like, yeah, a deepening of kind of maturity in the practice. It's like navigating that more skillfully when it happens and knowing how to, yeah, to ride that. But that can sometimes even happen, like, with your partner or, yeah, your family. It's can be quite a quite a thing to navigate.
Mm. Yeah. And to see it as a completion of, oh, I want to see, I want to see, I'm longing to see, and oh, I on some level I don't want to see right now. And also it's okay. Like this is part of the experience too.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where some of the metaphors of like the X-Men or there was one kind of group doing a different kind of practice that would call people muggles from the Harry Potter, so you magicians and muggles. But there's a danger of a superiority in that doesn't feel quite right because it's like, yeah, that's not what it's about in essence. Yeah, we're drawn to this practice and discovering kind of this depth of connection, but that yeah, doesn't seem then a way to relate to the rest of those that aren't interested as being less than or something because of that.
Right now I'm thinking of one of my gene keys, and I don't know if you are familiar with the,
A little bit. I don't know it that well, yeah.
like shortly in every gene key there is a shadow, a gift, and a kind of transcended version that, yeah, embraces all. And I have the shadow of arrogance. And
Mm.
arrogance meaning I put myself above others, but also below others.
Mm.
And the gift is leadership. And the siddhi, I think it's a Sanskrit word,
Yeah, the higher integration.
yeah, is humility.
Mm.
Yeah, it just came.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't fully understood the gene key, but it makes me like, yeah, feel some
What
excitement.
what I like in that map you got there is that it would be easy to go into false humility where you're not actually acknowledging the leadership and because I liken transformation connection, it's like a martial art. So if you do a martial art and it's an effective one, you will be better at fighting than before you did the martial art. And that does give you a kind of leadership capacity or a power in the world. So you can't be falsely like downplay that totally. Like there is something we're learning in this practice that's powerful in the world. If we can sense emotions and feelings in people and see subtle belief systems as they're unfolding, and we can go into meditative states of awareness that help us sense things. That's not a small thing. But then if you take that too far, like you say, and you don't get to that higher humility, yeah, that's where yeah, the world will usually give you a nice lesson.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah, and I trust in these lessons, or and I trust in this growth that goes in this direction, but also needs the other direction and needs to be centered in the middle or in the heart.
mm.
Mm.
Yeah, what comes up for me now is that when we first did the course online, because in person, I mean, now you've done a fair amount of in person, can get pretty wild being in a group if it's allowed to mature and like you have a few days together. can really cultivate the field, as you called it, and or you can deepen into the exploration. And when we were first putting it online, I was like, is this going to work? And there was one thing we knew for sure is we don't want to be online for like 12 hours or even 8 hours in a row. That wouldn't feel good at all. There's something, I don't know, very impactful about being on a screen for too long. So when we got clear, like, okay, 3 hour sessions, are we going to get the same amount of depth? And and that's where I'm interested from your perspective, because from where I am, what I was surprised at is there is something you don't get from that live immersion. Like there's a magic to that, and the fact that you're together for 4 days on an SAS, it's like boom, like with people who are committed as well. So it's like, but then this thing of like meeting every week for 3 hours, it's like slow drip. Like at first you're like, okay, we're just starting to go into the depths, and okay, end the session, and then the next one comes, and it's like you're touching the depth all the time, but it's like, but then what I was surprised at by the end, that it's that accumulation was really impactful, and the group seemed very close in that kind of continual. But I wonder what it was like for you, kind of on the inside.
Yeah, I think for me it had a really mm, like this quality of meeting every week for 3 hours, but then also have this ending after the 3 hours. It felt very like healthy or sustainable, like
Hmm.
going into something. And I think our systems, our bodies, they know exactly of how much we are able to dive into a certain experience and how much we are able to handle. And I feel this like, oh yeah, there is this frame, and it's a frame of 3 hours every weekend. Like, oh, it. I feel like it gave me something that like a week immersion couldn't give me, or I think the right dose of, oh, now I can go into something, and then I have space for integration and for.
Yeah. Yeah, that really resonates. And I think there's a movement actually in transformational practice that intensity doesn't always equal more transformation. It's because it's if you overwhelm yourself with stimulation, it's like it's too hard to integrate. So this, yeah, slower, steady, but consistent, yeah, it's powerful.
Mm.
Mm.
I remember the first call in the SAS with John, and there were like last 20 minutes in a breakout room of 4 people with John, and it was like, woo, a lot of, I don't know, magic created. And I was like, after these 3 hours, okay, this is how the SAS will be like. It's like, oh my God. And the next week, it was you. And it was the first time I saw you. And it was a completely different experience. It was like, what is this?
Yeah. Well, that's a big part of the online SAS as well, because like live, it's one leader because you can't fly in and out, but online, we all the top leaders can contribute, so we take it in turns, and yeah, so that was quite uh, an impact, feeling the different styles. Imagine.
Mm. Yeah. I don't know if the experience I had was so much about the different styles or just this moment experience that just came up randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there anything, yeah, about your experience in the 6 months that you would like to share, like any of the, I don't know, challenges or highlights or
Mm. Yeah, when it's like when I hear the word highlight, it doesn't resonate so much, or
Hmm.
like grabbing this one highlight. Or when I was thinking a bit more about the SAS in the last days, I remember that I didn't miss one session, or I think one theory into practice session. I missed it, but the others was like, oh, it feels relevant to be here and to yeah, open up for the experience that wants to be there. And there were it's such a large spectrum of experiences of just being me and being human. And it's like, yeah.
Mm.
And I think also what I shared with you about the first two sessions, it was kind of symbolic for, oh, don't cling to one experience, or don't attach yourself to one experience, and like, oh, and I think like training this muscle of, oh, and another one and another one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't change. Or what I'd say is like now having done this for over 15 years, it's like yeah, in one way there's an overall sense of a deepening and an easing and like accessing the depth is kind of easier and there's less attachment and that's definitely happening. But in another way, like recently I'd led 3 events and it was like felt so grateful to like life. It's like how could I have such a meaningful experience and it goes so well and but there's always a little worry about like getting attached or like that doesn't mean the next one and yeah. And then the next event I did was so challenging. Well, compared to that, I mean, it was still nourishing and engaging, but it was also that some really deep things got touched in me that were difficult to navigate. And so it's like continually getting kind of drawn, yeah, towards what wants attention or is ready for attention or ready for transformation. But it's not always easy.
Yeah, right now I'm thinking of, I don't know where I read it, but it's like soul wants to experience. And I feel like transformational connection and surrendered leadership is like creating a little bit of the safe container of like, it's like life. It's very close, and but still not, but close. And like, oh, like like a parallel version that is getting closer and closer and closer and closer to life. And like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's so nice to hear you say this because it's like the pedagogy of surrendered leadership and is it's been a huge part of our journey. Like when John and I, like even before we were coaching tennis, but before we did, and it was elite tennis, and we spent a lot of time looking at like what is the best way to work with young athletes and adults and to help them learn, but also to have a meaningful experience. Because if you're in like elite sports, the emphasis is on how do you get winners. But it's like, yeah, but if you get one winner and you get 1,000 burnouts, that's not good. Like, why are we doing that? Like, is it worth it? But actually, you can have like this excellence and like, because it's amazing to perform at the highest level. And that's true for our practices as well. If you can really tune into someone and speak words that are really aligned to your truth and you can embody and move and you can touch and like, if you can do that with excellence, it feels amazing. But it doesn't feel amazing if that's at the cost of like the humanness and the, like what helps people continue to practice over a long time. And actually, what you point to is the thing that we found through tennis and working there, but it got enhanced by transformational connection, which is like having the practice be close to the real to make it as real relating as possible. It's not like a just a meditation and we're sat here meditating together. It's like, no, we're having a real relationship and we want to even be even more real than we normally are while being present. But I like it that you see also that actually some people can see that it's like, oh, when we're in a circle, this is more real. Like this is more alive, this is more deep, this is more complex what we're getting into, and this is what life's about. But I actually think no, real life is more complex and challenging because no one's holding the container, no one's committing to depth, no one's there's so many variables, you don't know what's happening. So showing up in that is actually more challenging, and that's why I think people feel more mundaneness and difficulty and like disconnection because the complexity is higher. And mundaneness is actually a response to overload of complexity, actually. And so a circle actually it's getting so close to that, but it gives us that little bit of room and that practice context to try stuff out, to make mistakes, to approach things we don't normally approach, or to reveal things that are too difficult normally, and to cultivate that presence that we want in our lives.
Yeah, I was thinking about my life the other day as a big surrendered leadership session where
Yeah.
my soul set the frame of, okay, it starts in 1988 and probably aware of when it's gonna end and like, okay, this is the time and this is the place and these are the people and okay, there you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we were we were on an aeroplane recently. My wife is a leader as well, and uh, we had our daughter who's almost 4, and we're on the plane, and me and my wife were just talking while our daughter was being crazy and moving around and doing what she always does. And but somehow we looked at each other and like, oh, this is actually a surrounded leadership circle. Like, dealing with our daughter being restless on a plane and, still got an hour left. And then suddenly, like, the magic just revealed itself. And it was like, there we were on, like, a little touch from my wife on my leg. And the waitress comes past or the hostess, and then my daughter does this, and then I find my truth here, and we're all we're all moving together, and it's all intuitive, and things are just happening, and it suddenly just woke everything up. It's like, oh yeah, this is always here. We don't need a practice container for that.
Yeah. And now I remember, like when you're talking about being in the sky with your family, in my certification session with you, there was one phrase that stayed
Mm.
with me, and that is still on a paper on my fridge. And you said to me, "Oh, the sky is the limit." It was like, oh. Hmm.
Yeah, that was another little roller coaster. Yeah, and you're talking about you can certify as a transformational connection leader in the SAS, and at the end, if people want to, they can have a go at certifying. Yeah. Well, what I liked about that process with you is what the deepest intention of the course is, because it's like, yeah, there's this thing about having a certification so we can let the world know, like, oh yeah, this person's ready to represent the practice, and we stand behind that, and there's a way for us to have some kind of easy way for people to understand what is the practice and what isn't the practice. But again, if that overshadowed like what it's about, and I just remember just being in presence with you, exploring like, yeah, what was it like to lead, and what's it like to be in this process of discovering if you're ready or not. Hmm.
I don't know, was there a question in that, or was it just
No, I got a very altered
Hmm.
state of consciousness and sharing that. Well, I think we should get close to wrapping up, but is there anything else you'd like to share? Or, um,
Hmm.
is there
Hmm.
anything you're doing with the practice now you'd like to share to people?
Hmm. I'm doing more and more, and yeah, people will find me if they want to.
Yeah.
Um, uh, it was really nice to be in this exploration with you.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, I've definitely appreciated that sense of alignment and your commitment to being present and exploring and finding out what's real until you find out what's even more real. And yeah, it's been super enjoyable so far, and yeah, hopefully there's a lot more to come. Sky's the limit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the sun now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, big love.
Mm. To you too. Ciao,
Bye
Sean.
now.
Mm.